everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're featuring step 8 of the Zippkits 46-inch VBox build series. So as you guys can see, I've got the top deck taped and clamped down onto the boat. It's just a dry fit. And so the reason why I actually do that is because I like to put a couple of reference marks so that when I'm laying the panel back down, makes it a little bit easier for me, and I'm not spreading the resin all around from off the top of the bulkheads, chines, and any other part of the flat surfaces that I'm actually joining the deck to. I want a nice, solid adhesion between those two surfaces. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking and making some marks, and then I'm going to take the panel off the top of the boat, off camera, and I'm going to flip it. And when I flip it, I'm going to take and I'm going to push a dowel underneath it, okay? And so what that's going to do is going to kind of kick it up and allow the seam in the middle to open up like a V. At which point I'll be able to fill that seam with a bunch of resin and then go back with some fiberglass matting to help keep that all together, okay? So once I have that all done, I'll remove the dowel so that it can lay flat all the way back on a table. And that should help make a really nice, tight adhesion for those two panels. And at that point, we can come back and repeat this process, which is laying it back down on top of the boat and then clamping it down and taping it down so that we can move on to the next step, which will be some more sanding and then the trimming of this panel, because as you guys can see, there is a slight bit of overhang, and we're not actually going to be leaving that on there. We're going to be trimming all of that off on both sides of the bow, and then we're going to be doing some more sanding and some more shaping. Fun times, folks. So hang tight, more to come. All right, I'm back, and so as you can see, I've got the deck laid out here on the table, and I've got the dowel that I told you about. And so what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be placing it underneath the very center of the deck, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab it, because what we want is for it to come all the way to the back end. So I'm going to show you exactly what that does for us. Come back here and grab the camera. I'm on a makeshift tripod here, folks, and I'm trying not to jumble the camera all over the place. So by putting that dowel underneath, it kind of opens up the seam, and that allows me to get a good bit of resin up in there. All right. And then back here and in the rear as well. So I'll get a really good amount of the resin in there, and then once I've got my fiberglass on it in all places, then I can basically remove the dowel, and the panel will sit flush and make a much tighter seam. Let me back it out so you can see that. It'll make a much tighter seam, and that's what we want. So it's going to be basically pushing the resin out of the seam and into the fabric. So that's the reason why I use this dowel trick, and it's a real important part of this particular method. Some people use other things, but a wooden dowel just seems to work best for me, and you don't have to have something 5 feet long, just maybe 3 feet, just enough to be able to reach the back up to the front. And that's it. So I've got a little work to do off camera, and when I'm done with all of that, I'll be back and I'll show you what all of that looks like. So hang tight, more to come. All right, and I'm back, and as you can see, I've got the panel laid out here outside on the table. The adhesive has already cured from the application that was done earlier. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and apply a real thin coat of this lamination epoxy resin that I've got. And I usually mix this stuff up so that I get a little bit more can time. It calls for a 1 to 2 part mix. Sometimes I actually done that down a little bit again to make it last a little bit longer. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to take our brush and just get a little bit on here. You're going to brush it on real nice and thin. Don't have to be super thick. You just want to see a nice little shine. The wood's going to turn an amber color when you do it. It's going to go from like a white color to an amber color basically. And you'll see that happening, and you'll also see the shine behind the brush. And it don't take much, just a little bit. And then with the carbon fiber matting or Kevlar or even fiberglass, you're just gonna dab it in. You're not gonna sit there and do a whole lot of brushing, okay? When you're applying it, I always put my finger down and start in one corner and brush it out, and then just fill in the center. And then dab in. And so if you see any like ghostly white looking color underneath it, just know that's air bubbles, and try to do your best to get that out of there, because you don't want that to pop off. Again, it's just a nice thin coat that you're applying to this. It doesn't have to be on there super thick, but you want to cover the entire surface of it because you don't want it getting wet and swelling up down the road. That would be disastrous for your build. So make sure that you put an adequate amount on here, and you'll be able to tell again, because there'll be like a glossy sheen to it after it's dried. If you apply it too thin, it's going to soak into the wood, and it's going to have a dull color. So if you do that, go ahead and go put yourself a second thin coat on board so that you see that glossy shine. You want to see that, because if not, it's very possible that the surface of the wood could still absorb some moisture down the road and swell up on you, and it's going to make for an awfully bad looking model. So try to do your best to don't put it on thick, but just enough that you see that shine. Little fiberglass matting back there. So that's pretty much it, folks. It's nothing too difficult about this end of the process. Again, it's just being patient. If you find yourself getting a little lanyap in it, try to do your best to get it out so that it doesn't hinder you laying the deck down on top of the ribs, the chines, and any of the bulkheads that you're going to be applying it to. And this is going to take about 24 hours to dry. It's already 2:30 in the afternoon, so I'm not going to mess with this again until tomorrow morning. It's going to take that long for it to dry out here, and we'll just keep our eyes on it. Once the odor goes away, we'll bring it inside and let it finish curing inside. But best bet is to leave this outside for the first couple of hours, because it's got a really nasty smell. It's kind of like wet dog to the 10th power, and for whatever reason the flies like it, and that's why you see them all around me here. So in any case, just make sure you've got that nice thin glossy look across the bottom of that panel, and you should be good to go. 24 hours from now, I'll be back, and I'll show you guys how to apply this onto the top of the boat. So, more to come. Hey everybody, Drew here, and I'm back. So as you can see, I've got this panel inside now, and it's been about 3 hours since the initial application there. The odor's dissipated enough that I can bring it inside and get it ready for the next step, which is applying it to the top of the boat. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our Bob Smith Industries 30-minute slow cure epoxy resin, and we're going to be mixing that 1 part to 1 part. And I use a scale to accomplish that, little digital scale. So what I do is I turn the scale on, I place my mixing cup on board, I hit the tare button so it goes to 0, and then I just mix equal parts, and with a stick mix that up and then brush it on. So just to explain that process a little bit more in depth, we're going to be putting a good bit around the corners of these chines because there's a pretty decent surface area to apply it. And then just a medium amount, if you will, on the bulkheads, back transom, and across the center supports. And then we'll go ahead and clamp that in place, tape it down as well so that we have a nice, clean, secure fit. And we'll be back to see what that looks like. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. So it's Saturday morning, and as you can see, I've got a bunch of bricks and clamps and cinch straps and tape on the hull, and went ahead and laid out the panel. So now we're just gonna have to let it set for a few hours, and we'll come back, I don't know, about 6 hours or so, and we'll remove all the clamps, the bricks, and the straps, and see where we need to fill, if any fillings needed, and if not, then we'll go ahead and trim. Some more to come. Stay tuned. Okay, so there's one more step to applying the top deck, and that's doing the back hatch cover. And so as you guys can see, I've done offline. I have, with 5-minute epoxy, made the seam, placed my mat, and put my little lid latch, if you will, on there. And then on the back end of the boat, I've got the hatch stops in here and clamped down. So I'm going to let all of that dry, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to put some lamination resin on top of that, and then we'll allow that to dry overnight so that we have a nice fitted canopy hatch cover for the back end of the boat. And so this is what she looks like so far. Got the clamps off of her early this morning, and did a little minor sanding. Still have some sanding to do across the top of the deck. I've got a little bit of a high spot right here in this panel, and so I'm going to use a block sander to level that out and get it nice and smooth. But I was able to get that nose piece cut in, and epoxy to the front end of the boat. And so this is what we got going on so far. As you guys can see, this is not something that can just be done overnight. It's going to take you about a week and a half or so just to build the boat out. And then once that's done, you've got a lot of sanding and shaping to do. And so depending upon your strength, your upper body strength, will determine how fast you'll be able to knock that out. So I use some tools to help me, and the oscillating sander is one of them, but you can only use that so much, and then you got to be hands-on with it. So with that being said, we'll be back to show you the finished product once everything's dried up and put on board. Some more to come. Stay tuned. And I'm back. So this is what the hull looks like when the deck is on. Got my little corner piece in there. canopy hatch cover. And so I just want to point out to you guys what this looks like with one coat, right? It still kind of looks like cloth, and it's not really going to shine much. If you want that to shine, you're going to have to put several coats of the resin on it, kind of like that. So I've got 4 coats of resin in here that I built up to basically make it look like that. Now, it's not perfect like if it was fuse injected. And if I was to do something like that, I'd be doing the whole boat, just not the hull. But so 4 coats of the resin to get it to look like that, and that's at the very least. Some people actually go 5 or 6, but I try not to weight these boat hulls down too much, man. People are going to be racing them, and they want them as light as possible. So at least 4 coats to get it that way. 5 if you're feeling generous. I wouldn't do too many more, 5 or 6 maximum, just to build it up and give it that real fancy look. Everything else would be elementary, my dear Watson, unnecessary, because it's not something that's going to be seen in the boat. So I went ahead and I dressed those up with a couple of coats, but as you see, it's not the same as this, but enough that it's going to do what it's intended to do, and that's hold that hull together, keep it from popping apart, and keeping it from leaking. So this is what the deck looks like on the boat. And next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna flip it over and put those strakes on the bottom end of the boat, and that should finish up this step of the build. More to come. And I'm back, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday morning. It's been 24 hours. I've got my deck on, I've got my canopy hatch on, reinforced. So this is the end of this particular step. I've got to trim the overhang off the boat and do some sanding and shaping. And so that's going to be the next step. A whole lot more sanding and shaping. In the meantime, it took a few minutes to dry fit the motor, and I'm definitely going to have to drill out for my front mounts. I'm good in the back, but I need to drill out for the front. See, these kits were basically set up for 30 cc's, I believe, so that's why it's a little bit longer in the front. That, or they're using a different type of motor bracket. But in any case, I'm going to leave that there because that's where I'm going to put my kill switch through. And I'll just re-drill here and on the opposite side so that I can get this mounted, and then we'll move on to some electronics and so forth. So stay tuned for the Zippkits 46-inch VBox build series videos by NOLA RC Powerboats.